Welcome to this evening's ACY Securities webinar, Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. Let's get straight into it. Please read through the disclaimer. If you're on our YouTube channel, then I can't see the chat. If you're putting some chat in there, but you're more than welcome to join us in the webinar. I've given you the link there, but I can't see your chat if you're chatting to me. So just come and join us in the webinar. So please read through the disclaimer. For those in the webinar room, questions to the chat box or the question and answer box, I've got both open. Feel free to ask me anything you like as we're moving along. All right, just give you a few more people coming in, so just let them read through the disclaimer before we get moving into it. All right, let's move along. Now, if you're new to the webinars and you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper, Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time trader. I've been trading the forex market now for more than 15 years, been mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there on screen, duncan.cooper@ecy.com. As well, through the week, you can connect with me in our Telegram, which is on the next slide. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you can connect me through the week on our website, acy.com, Market News tab, our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, and you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And as well on Telegram, you can connect with us there. Just email Nathan Bray at acy.com to get access. So if you'd like to get access to our Telegram channel, or you want to get access to our MT4 layouts and templates, the ones I'm using, then just contact Nathan. He will organize that for you. I will put his details in the chat right now. And if you've got any questions about opening an account or anything to do with ACY, just give him a call. His details in the chat there, or send him an email. All right, and for those that might be an account holder, just to let you know, unless things change, next Monday, the 13th of March, we've got the Inner Circle webinar, 8 p.m. Sydney time. Just contact Nathan if you'd like to get access. You have to be an account holder to get access. Other than that, you just need to talk to Nathan and you should be able to get in. And then you'll have the opportunity to discuss your trading with us. I'll be on the mic. You can get on the mic and talk about anything to do with trading, and Nathan will be there as well. So you can chat to both of us. All right, so that's coming up next Monday. All right, let's have a look at the news coming out for the next 24 hours or so. So the risk event coming up early in the morning, these are Queensland time, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock New South Wales. Fed Chair Powell is going to be testifying. So he can say anything, can't he, when he testifies, but hopefully he's going to be saying along the similar lines of what he's been saying from the FOMC meeting minutes that got released, what, a week and a half ago. Doesn't come out with anything that's opposite to what the market's been listening to, but you never know. So that is a risk event. He could say anything he wants. That could drive the market any which way he wants, depending on what he says. So let's hope he just keeps to the general script of what the FOMC meeting minutes have been saying. He's actually testifying twice, but I'm guessing maybe the more volatile time will be the first time. So that's at 1 o'clock this morning. And then the next volatile thing will be 1 o'clock in the morning again on Thursday morning. We've got the Canada interest rate decision, and yes, Fed Chair Powell testifies once more. And then the bigger one as well at the end of the week is the US job figures, okay? The big decline that we had last month in February all started from very, very positive job figures. So if we get the same thing again, maybe we're going to get the same movement down again. So that's what's coming up. Just head over to forexfactory.com. You can set this to your time zone and then see when these items are coming out. All right, let's get to the charts. We'll have a look first of all at the dollar index. And it's just worth noting the position. We've moved above these monthly tops. Monthly trend is actually still up. Whilst we've had this pullback, it hasn't changed the monthly trend. And if we move above last month, in this month, that's going to start to give a little bit of a bullish picture to that monthly chart once more. Weekly, We really need to take out 105.69 to confirm a new uptrend on the weekly because it's still lower top, lower bottom. So theoretically, we could still hold this weekly downtrend pattern, move below monthly supports, and form a further lower top here on the weekly. That is a possibility. So really need to be watching 103.82, you know. And Alif May is saying my charts aren't showing. They should be, but let me just, can somebody else confirm, are my charts showing? Or how about now? Are the charts showing now? All right, excellent. Great. All right. All right, let me just start the dollar index again. So monthly chart, here we go. Take two. Technical issue. All right. So dollar index, there's a monthly level that we've moved above this double top area here. 103.82. And very positive month last month. Can we move above last month, really start to enforce that, maybe that reversal that we're seeing there to continue that trend up? We have a weekly high here, 105.69. And we really need to take that high out, form an uptrend on the weekly chart. Once we do that, then all time frames will be up. So that's just the question. If we continue down, we're going to form a further lower top here. So got to be watching day to day, 103.82. What is the position of the dollar index relative to that monthly top there, 103.82? As long as we're holding above there, or we start breaking above 105.69, especially breaking above 105.69 here, then that's going to really confirm the uptrend. All right, we could be forming a little bit of a base here. All right, start to move up. Just started to consolidate in the first week of the month. All right, so that's the position of the dollar index. There could be some traders covering their positions ahead of the Fed, ahead of the job figures on Friday. So we have had a big move up through February. People may be covering their positions, waiting to see what comes out this week before they then delve in for the rest of the trading month. So, and the SP 500. We could be forming, this is my monthly chart look, we could be forming a further lower top here. We have had a month down this month. So we had a very negative month in February. We have broken the low of this month, but we're obviously rallying back up. And all that rally could be is that on the weekly chart here, after potentially triple topping up here at 79% fib, we could just be coming up for another test of the 4104 area, which is monthly resistance here, to maybe form a lower top on the weekly chart. So it's worth dropping to your daily. And I could draw a fib across that whole range. We're almost at the 62 level, 4089 is that level. A little bit above is the 4104 level, the monthly resistance level. So that would be a great area if you like trading indices to look for failure. Is this the yearly high for long-term move down? We've dropped down the weekly. Is this rallying on the weekly up to this area to then turn down for a long-term move? So having a little bit of a rally on the indices, a little bit of a pullback on the dollar index. It's just, like on the dollar index there, had a very, very positive month, February. Nothing really, if we just click back to the dollar index a moment, nothing really heads up from one month to the next without pulling back inside the month before. So this is just a little bit of a pullback back inside the month before maybe continuing up to a higher month. So nothing really will close on a month and then just head straight north for the next month without having some trading within the range of the previous month. All right, so we're just being had a little bit of pullback maybe on the dollar index and the SP500 at the moment. So what I want to look at, I don't think anything's really setting up because things have been moving already. So I might just start with the Aussie yen, which has been quiet, but I did alert you guys in the Telegram a couple of weeks ago to this resistance level, and in the webinars, 92.81 up here, that weekly top just there. So to the weekly charts, in fact, to the monthly chart, what I'm anticipating, if we can break the low of the previous month, this month, so the low here, is we are going to form on the Aussie yen a lower top. We have a lower bottom, we rallied up, are we forming a lower top for a continued decline? All right, so I'll be monitoring this. That's the monthly range from high to low. We kind of held at the 50% level. I've been monitoring this weekly range from that lower top to this bottom, and we were wanting to keep holding at the 62 level. Over the last week or so, it's gotten very quiet up at that area. So about 2 weeks ago now, we had this little 79% retracement up here, failing at weekly resistance, and now we're starting to break down. The interest rate decision today has obviously helped. Now, if you're short, I am short. So if you are short with me, then we need 90.51 this month. This is a monthly low over here. This level needs to break. And if we get a clear break of that, then we could be heading to challenge support down here through the course of the month. All right. So I've been looking at all that movement up as just corrective. This movement down here, this has been corrective. So we could, depending on what the market wants to do, see a long-term move now. So this is, trend down, rally, trend down now. Can we move down towards a 127 extension? First level to obviously watch would be the 87 level support for a long-term move down through there. Now, one of the risk events for the yen pairs this week, if I go back to the news, Friday, we've got the press conference. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm correct, but you might want to check my accuracy. I think we've got a new governor coming in for the BOJ, and monetary policy may change slightly. We might see a slightly more, dollar yen's been moving up, for example, so the yen's been weakening. So as a new governor comes in, there may be definitely some verbiage maybe to say that we don't like the dollar yen at this price, it's too high. Inflation has been upticking ever so slightly, I think, in Japan as well. So there might be a little bit of hawkish talk, whether they change any policy or not. But if they do change any policy, 2 or 3 months ago, they changed the interest rates on their, I think it was a 10-year bonds, allowing them to rise a little bit higher. So anything coming out there that's going to be ever so slightly hawkish is not going to be good for these pairs to the yen. All right, so, and that would definitely be nice for the Aussie yen. This big drop down here was on one of the BOJ announcements. So, and that was the best part of at least 300 to, let me just measure it. I know on the euro yen, when it happened, it was the best part of 500 pips drop. So that one candle there was, well, it's 500 pips. All right, so, you have to beware on Friday that the BOJ will be doing its monetary policy statements. So as to getting in at the moment, you don't want to be selling. You certainly don't want to be selling into this monthly support level, which is 90.51. So dropping down the 4-hour chart, you want to look for a rally if you can. There's last week's low, so that's an ideal spot of broken support. Looking for some form of a rally. From a 4-hour chart perspective, at the moment, the most significant, probably have to go from this high now down to that low and start to monitor any pullback if a pullback comes. I can see that 62 level is rather close to last week's low. So looking, into tomorrow, if we can get a rally up, always good to sell a rally. I'm not going to sell the bottom of a move like that. He's coming back up 62 levels there with the last week's low. We did have quite an imbalance here for those that know about imbalances. In fact, we've had a couple of imbalances within the move of today. There's one here and there's one here. So it wouldn't be any stretch to see this imbalance here actually get filled at some point. Got filled a little bit, but you know, if that was a low of the day, we could come back up to the 79% level here at 91.49 and start to fill in this imbalance if price really wants to. So you just need to monitor a retracement at the moment. Where can that come in? You know, check last week's low. We've clearly broken that at the moment. Last week's low at 91.27. All right, look to sell a rally if we can get a rally. Same with the Aussie dollar here at the moment. Maybe we're going to break down and through. Earlier in the day, I was looking up here at the 67.83 up to the 68.11 level. If we could rally after the news event with interest rates rising, but clearly that never came around. So we are below last month's low and last week's low. We've had about a 80 to 90 pip range here forming last week, and are we moving down and through? So there's every chance that, you know, we don't. 6,700 at the moment, it's been quite strong support, even though, you know, trading up from 67 is counter to the trend that we've been starting to form from February. But we could see a move back up this way, especially if the Fed Powell comes out with something that's US dollar weak. All right. So I'm not going to sell into support, but we're clearly below 6,700, a lot more than we were last week. But it's not, I don't think it's a given yet that we've broken that level. But if we move down a good, you know, if we can trade below 66.50 today, then 6,700 starts to look more like resistance on a rally. All right. So at the moment, like I was just showing it on the Aussie yen, draw a fib from top up there, keep dragging it down if price keeps moving down. If we have a good further move down today, any rally may start getting capped at 67. So we'll be definitely starting to watch 67 for a cap if we can continue a nice move down today. But, you know, there's always at the moment, now is the fear of missing out. If you're not already short, how do I get in? That's the concern. But if you just drop it back to the 4-hour charts, what we may well see, we may see a nice clear breakaway from the 67 level this week or through the week. All right. But you know, next major level is at 66.29 from the weekly chart. This low here. So we could be heading down towards there and then see a bounce. So as you're planning your trading through the course of this week or through the course of the month, if you're not short at the moment, you know, we could bounce down here. And the area that we're breaking through at the moment could then be a level of resistance to trade down from. We saw that on the New Zealand dollar last week. All right. So watch for a clear move below that level. Can it rally back up to that level to be a selling level for yourself? Okay. All right, Euro yen. This is looking very ominous. If we get a very clear close, let's say the candle was going to close right now on the Euro yen, that's a very negative daily candle. And I've been monitoring two ranges, this larger range. Been a fraction short of that 79 level, but we haven't been up to that. It's about 146. Can't quite read the number. 146.02. Pretty much the 14600 level is that 79. And then the range that we're still within, that weekly top to that weekly bottom. Possibly this is all corrective. That was a drop from the budget monetary policy statement back in time. But it's been correcting all that drop back up here. you know, at the moment today, we're just you know, sitting around that 79% retracement level. So are we starting to top out up there? What I noticed when I was looking at price action day was, you know, this is still an uptrend on the daily, so it could still continue up. If it's just in an area where we're getting quite high now, there's previous highs here on the day chart from last year, all the way to the left here, then we could start to top out at. And when I was looking at the 4-hour chart, we false broke last month's high. You know, there's a 4-hour top here, here, here. We may, at the moment, just be in some form of a range, and I may put the range from, I'm going to call that a false break, so I could draw my range from there to there. All right. You know, a break below there clearly turns that into a negative position. A number of ways of looking at this. We could be also looking at that was a false break and a drop. We obviously weren't able to continue and move higher above that high, and we're fading at a little 79% level there too. So are we topping out up there? As I said, we do have the risk event of the budge talking on Friday. So being so high up, moving back to the day chart here, being so high up here on the day chart for the Euro yen, being long when the budge talks on Friday to me looks too risky. You know, if you have been trading all the way up here, if you have a nice profits, it may be time to take profits, because this could simply be move there. This is all corrective. Starting to fade at 79% potentially here. And if we start to, you know, we have Monday got support from this monthly area of triple top resistance here from last year. You know, if we do get a clean break below there, that's pretty much the 14400 level, then I will start to look for an opportunity to short. Look for a retest and failure. Okay. I don't really want to be opening up a new position, I don't think, ahead of the budge, but we could be topping out there. So this monitor that for a start of a topping out process. But obviously you can trade ahead of Friday and get out ahead of the budge, but just have to wait and see how the close. Now, how does it look tomorrow? When tomorrow comes around, where are we closing? We're getting a nice negative close. Because even if we do get a nice negative close below the 79% level, then tomorrow, if we move down to the 4-hour chart, you know, if we do get a nice negative move down, then you could start to monitor the 79% level for a rally failure tomorrow for, yes, a move down. And then you just have to decide how you want to manage things when Friday comes around. Okay. But, you know, it does look a little bit toppy up there at the moment. All right, moving to the euro dollar. All right, I did put a video out this morning in Telegram looking at failure potential at the 10700 level to the daily charts. Look, I'm looking at this range at the moment that we're trading back up. 62 levels at 10700, 79% levels at this weekly top over here. So even though we're a little bit negative on the day at the moment, we could further pop up when Powell talks. So what levels would be good to see failure at if we do pop up? I mean, we might not pop up, but it's always good to have levels there in front of you. All right, so we are actually false breaking last week's high at the moment. So we just managed to have a week up this week, and we're selling down today. We didn't quite get to the 10700 level, but that could well be just a rally point. If you just do some work on your 4-hour chart here, we failed 3 times over here at the 10700 level. That's why I was picking that level out today. As well, the 62 level coincides with that, but this rally here and this rally here could not touch those tops. So clearly these tops are being used. Let me just adjust that. those tops there are clearly being watched by the market. That's where the sellers are at the moment. So we may see a stub in there. Excuse me a moment. All right, my dog's just getting a bit excited. So we may well see a stub in there this week. The 10700 level. Watch that level for a good level of resistance. We may have already failed, but it is a level worth watching. All right, to the 15-minute chart. Now let's assume that we've already failed, but we could stub into that area later in the day. You know, price won't probably go just down all day long. It may have a rally from this failure up here at the start of London. So you can monitor this coming back up to 79% level there. If you can get up there for a rally failure. Watch, you know, if price gets back up to 106.86, just watch to see what it does there. If it starts to fail, you may see a reversal down. And we may have already failed and put the high of the week in already. You can see here once, twice, 3 times it's failed up there. And of course, we don't know what the market will do when the Fed comes and has a chat, but maybe price just goes down and it doesn't go to a higher level. So it's always difficult when you're waiting for events. Do you want to be in for the event? Do you want to see if price can jump up higher to a level? So as you know, there's always that fear of missing out. So you could be monitoring a rally. All right, moving on to pound yen. Pound yen at the moment, there's a weekly low over here. Now I'm still a little bit, like we've been discussing on the Aussie yen and the Euro yen, we had this significant impulsive move. It's the same on all these yen crosses, a significant impulsive move. And then we've been reclaiming backwards up. You know, so is that the trend? Is this corrective? So what you'll notice is we got a little bit short of the 79%, if that's the range that the market's operating in. Now, at the moment, there's a weekly low over here that's acting as some form of support for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, and today's the 5th day. We're testing that level, but we're obviously sitting on that level. So we're getting support there. And that day chart trend is quite clearly up at the moment. It hasn't broken down to a lower bottom. It's not putting in a lower top. It's just notably that this could be all corrective to the 79% level. So you just need to decide yourself, do you think this is going to continue up within that day trend? What I do notice is that all this movement back up here has all been to fill an imbalance over here. So now that's been filled, we could well move down. So I'm just sitting on the sidelines at the moment. I don't like to be a buyer. I don't think when I see it fail up here at the 79 area. Doesn't mean to say this can't go up, and you can have a different viewpoint from me. If you want to be a buyer, you may see a further test of the 106.03 level. That's the level to look for support to buy from to move up if you want to be a buyer. If you think we're failing up here, because there are 2 sides of the coin on this pair at the moment, buying at 163.03, you can see how many times it's held there. Or if we think we're going to move lower, you really want to see price move below that level and then see a rally back to it to become resistance. All right. So at the moment, the buyers are holding 163.03. So, you know, if you want to engage, that's probably what the direction is at the moment. But it could flip the opposite way. So you just need to determine, you know, as you look through the higher time frames, where do you think the longer term picture is? For me, yes, I am looking at that as downtrend corrective. So I don't want to sell into support, but I don't know if I want to get long on that pair. Anybody got an opinion on that? Edwin, I'll let you trade that pair if you're on. Don't know if Edwin's on tonight. All right, so will support hold for a continued move up, or are we going to break below 163.03? So I'm going to go to I want to go to my MACD chart for the pound yen. All right, so we don't have a cross on the day chart yet, but maybe one's coming. And for our chart there, it's not really telling me anything. So I'm not really getting any significant input from looking at an indicator, but this may be wanting to cross down there on the day chart. So you can, if that does cross down the day chart, that's probably going to be a definite confirmation that, okay, you should be looking to the downside. But Cameron's telling me to scalp this short today. All right, just to the 15-minute chart, you can see since I've been, as I was coming on, we came down and stabbed down at support and we've had a bounce. So if you want to be a buyer, you can see there over the last 2 trading days, failed once, 2, and failed there Friday, and we're failing there here today. So you may well see another test of that level. If it comes down for a test and the 15-minute candle comes in and reverses, you could have a tight entry for a buy to trade up. All right, market could go either way here at the moment. And I do notice that we've had a nice drop with an imbalance here. So that imbalance may need to be filled through the trading day. All right, so if we do hold here, then it's very logical that the price may want to come back up to fill, that imbalance. So at the moment, 163.03 is a level to watch for support. If it breaks, then that's the level to watch for resistance, okay? You can decide if you want to engage on that. All right, pound dollar. We do have the potential of this double top up here forming. I can put a line in there so you can all see it. Or I'll just draw a fib in, because then you'll see that if this is a double top here, we can break this weekly support down here at 118.41 this month. Then we could be heading down towards the price projection down here at 112.35 now. Of course, we may not test 118.41, but what we're seeing on the day chart is just as it's grinding down here, it's going a little bit sideways. We kind of had equal highs up here, equal lows down here. And we're pretty much sitting in the middle of the range. Now, I don't know what price will do through the week. So a bit of a rejection up there at the moment. We monitor the range of last week. So that's the high last week, and this is the lower last week. We found at 62. I much prefer to see a fair up here at the 79 level, and that's 120.95, so pretty much the 120.100 level. We've been moving above 121 and failing a couple of times here over the last week or so. So 121 may be starting to be the cap for where price could get a rally to if it got that high. All right, it's not very price friendly here at the moment. It's getting very range bound. We could break higher or we could break lower. So you really want to, from a very negative month in February, potentially creating that double top for a long-term move down. My bias is to sell at a higher level. My high level would be up here at 120.100 if we started to falter there. Or I could watch up here at 121.47, the top of that range there. Tomorrow's webinar is how to trade the range using Fibonacci, so we can look at this range tomorrow. I could readjust that fib to that high, to that low. And I'm going to take you through this tomorrow, but trading that range, if I wanted to be a seller in line with the more dominant trend from last month's decline, is I would just be looking to sell here. All right, putting my stop at the 127R level above. And I'll take you through that whole setup tomorrow, but I don't know whether we can get up to the top of the range. So I'll be watching the 79 level here and then up to the top of the range. All right, 79 level is pretty much the 120.100 level there. But when I'm looking at levels, sometimes price won't get to my level, but I'm always looking to be a trader at the best level if price can move to the level. And the Lufame, You're asking me, is 79% retracement the level you're personally comfortable with? Well, it's my preferred level. The market, as we're seeing at the moment, the range that I was just using before, when I wasn't looking at the outer skirts of the whole range there, the market from a probability perspective, when it, there's the movement down, this is corrective of that range. The market from a high probability perspective can stop at the 62 level or the 79 level. All right, my preferred choice is the 79 because if I'm trading there, trading back down to support, it offers me a better risk reward. Okay, either level can be resistance on a rally there when you're using the fib tool. It's just a question of what the market wants to do. My personal choice is I like the 79% level, because if you trade at the 79% level up here and simply take profit at supports, it gives you a risk to reward of 1 to 3. And if you break support, you're going to have a greater risk reward. So that's why I prefer the 79% level. So I could trade today at 62. The market today is always in control. It could fail here at 62 today and simply trade down. All right. And if I'm watching the 79% level to trade, I'm going to miss out, obviously. I'm quite happy to miss out. So as a trader, what you have to do is work out what level you are comfortable trading at more often. I'm more happy to trade up here because of the risk reward benefit. All right, because I can be right, say 70% of the time when things are going really well for me. If things aren't going really well for me, maybe I'm more like 50-50. So if I'm more like 50-50 at any time through the year, trading at a 79% level with risk reward of 1 to 3 is going to help me with my profitability if my loss to win ratio, is just win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So it does mean that I might miss out, but the biggest thing in trading is risk to reward. All right, the better risk reward you can create, the more profitable you'll be over time, and it helps, of course, clear up any losses if you hit a bit of a losing streak as well. All right, so hopefully that clears it up for you. All right, so what's the 121 level? If we can get there, we may not get there, but that's the level I'm watching. Last week, we were discussing the 1958 level, maybe in the 1961 level. I think there's a low, this is a monthly level, 1958. There's a daily level here at 1961. And I said, watch 1961. We obviously traded below it, but that's where the buyers are, and then we've headed back up. So you don't want to be selling too close to the 1961 level because it's clear support. Maybe it will break down eventually, but at the moment, that's clearly where the buyers keep coming in. So, if wherever you're selling, if you want to start to sell at a lower level, you might see this moving down here on your 15-minute chart, and you see a setup that you like. Don't be selling too close to support because support has been proving down there. Now, there is a possibility that we're moving up for the week. So whilst I'm discussing trading down from 121, you can see here yesterday that 120 was support intraday. 1, 2, 3, we had 4 attempts there to move below 120 yesterday. So price moving down here today to 120 may well offer further support for a move all the way back up to 120-100. Okay, we are range bound on this pair, so we've got news events coming out for the pound on Friday. I think it's GDP figures, and then we've got job figures on Friday as well. So this may just stay range bound all week till Friday. May just want to trade kind of between 120 and 120-100. So if you see it, your setup, a reversal down here at 120, this could well trade all the way back up to 121. All right, so the two levels, 2 figure levels there you can watch, trade around. Cliff, welcome. So you're a little bit late. If you go to our YouTube channel tomorrow, you're asking about the recording. I'm going to go there now and show you. If you just head over to our YouTube channel, we're live streaming at the moment. So if you head over to the live tab here, so this is ACY Securities Australia. I'll put that in the chat for you. It's in the chat. You go to the live tab. This is live right now, but after the event, there'll be a recording sitting there that you can go back and have a look at. All right. All right. All right, so keep moving along. Now, New Zealand yen. I've been discussing for weeks this area, 84.66 up to 84.91, daily weekly resistance. We did trade above that last week, but we clearly failed there. So it's at the top of the range to move down. All right, I would be simply, I just want to see where we are positioned within that range. Couldn't quite get to the 62 level. Now, and we're back below that 94.91 weekly resistance level. Here's the weekly chart. Now we do have a higher bottom, and that is a higher top, but are we topping there? Is resistance simply resistance for a failure to move down? I think if we're going to move above that level, we should have held above on Friday and not collapsed back below. So that looks like a critical failure to me. So I would be watching to see now if price can come up to 84.66 or 84.91 or in between that area for a failure. So if we draw a fib in, I'll move to the 4-hour chart, and the whole move down, I can see the 79% level overlaps perfectly with the weekly resistance level, 84.92, 84.91. Now again, price may not get there, but that would be a great level to expect failure if we could move up there and trade 79% fib retracements. All right, it could also fail at the 62 level. So leave for me before you're asking me which level. I don't know which level will hold. The market only knows which level is going to hold. I like that level because the risk reward, but price may just stop at the daily resistance level and the 62 level there. All right, so 2 levels to watch there if we have a rally. I always prefer the higher level. All right. So can we get that rally there or not? You can monitor New Zealand dollar. All right, so from a weekly perspective here, and I see some new names on here tonight, so welcome to those new names. I've been staying on the New Zealand dollar. I'll just do a whole top-down analysis for those people that may have not seen me talk about this in the webinar. This is last year's trading range from high to low, the whole range for the year, where we failed at the 62 area. We came up to this low over here, 65.27. That's a monthly level of resistance. So if I drop it to the monthly, that level there, really this has just been downtrend, rally, outside month last month to the downside. Are we continuing down long term? That's what I'm looking at. On the weekly chart here, we formed a double top and a bit of a triple top in the daily. A triple top there in the daily and a double top from here to the whole area on the weekly. So I'm looking at that as a potential double top, targeting the double top price projection below down here at 58.68. Now, at the moment, I'll get rid of that. We are struggling in this area of support. We've got a weekly support at 61.91 and 62.04 is the level of monthly support from back in time. So pretty much the 62 area is offering some form of support. We are trading fraction below there at the moment. Last week, we did come up to broken day support, became resistance. I know some of you traded down from that level. So the big question is at the moment, can we clearly start to move below 62? It's been a bit of a dodgy area. It could have a day up tomorrow or today and start to form a higher bottom in that area. So whilst, you know, my long-term look at the monthly and weekly charts, I think we're moving down. On the day perspective here at the moment, we're just a little bit messy. We're sticking around a level where we, if we are going to continue a downtrend, long-term move down, we need to move away from this area. So to the 4 hour. And I am already short from higher up, so I'm not too concerned about trying to get in, but trying to get in at the moment in this area is just a little bit tricky because sometimes it's support. We'll keep moving back above 62. We keep moving back below 62. We just need to move away from this area, I think. So it would be nice on the 4 hour chart here if we just had a nice impulsive move down to at least challenge this low down here. All right. Then if we did get a rally, hopefully 61.91 becomes resistance then, and we can move away from that area. So, trying to look at what price might do unfold over the next day or two. Looking for an impulsive move down and then that area becoming resistance would be ideal. But, whilst we're sticking around 62, the market could go either way. So, all right. So that's what I would look for. I'm just, so I already got short a little bit higher up, so I'm not too concerned about what the market's doing right now. Trying to get a position, it's a bit difficult just where it's sitting. So, sometimes the pair is difficult. You just have to wait for a little bit of a nicer area or a nicer price action setup that you can see to trade. So this is last month's low down here as well. So, it would be great if the US job figures gave you a clear break of this area and then we continue down for the month. This area could be resistance at some point in the month, but at the moment, the market's just sticking around 62. You may, if you want to be aggressive, if you think, okay, we're going to go down, you may see some nice price action on the 50-minute chart over the next 24 hours where, we could finish down here by the end of the day. And then we might run it back up to 62. And you might see some nice tight price action that you like, that you could short from to trade down. But at the moment, you can see here that we are a little bit on the 50-minute chart here. You can see that we are rather choppy in the area. We've got support through here. And we've got resistance up here. So it is rather choppy. Being aggressive, if you thought, okay, long term, this is going to move down. If we did come back up to the high area up here, this may be an area where you could look to short if you saw your setup for a break back below 62. All right, but it's just very choppy price action. I would prefer a clear move away from 62 because it is acting as some form of support or resistance. It keeps flipping. You can see it was resistance here. But then yesterday, or through Asia today, it was support. So it's not easy there at the moment. All right, so just keep watching. Something better may present. Dollar Canadian. Are we going to get a breakout? We've got the interest rate decision coming out early Thursday morning. Now, they're expecting a no interest rate rise in Canada. So to me, then that could well signal, if we go back to Forex Factory, here we go. That's what we're expecting. No interest rate rise. So are they at terminal levels for interest rates at the moment? Is that, are they going to just be paused now and at some point move down? But, they could be just on pause for long term. So then if the US are still raising interest rates, the differential will tick in favor of the US side, and this dollar Canadian, which has rather been, this is monthly resistance here, but in more recent price action, we've got weekly resistance here and weekly support here. All right, so we're obviously heading up to the top of the range, but with that interest rate change on the front, where Canada is not going to be competing with rises anymore as the US is still rising, then interest rate yields could well start to tip this to the upside, favoring the US side. We're putting in there another higher bottom. In my analysis this morning when I was talking about the dollar Canadian, my preferred option here would be that this does come down to support here. If you want to be a buyer right now, do you really want to buy up here, getting very close to re-challenging resistance? No, you don't. So if you think there's a long-term chance that this could break out this large weekly range, you'd like to buy a dip at support. So 135.20 is the level I'm just watching. Price may not get there. And, we may not be able to move through this area here. So, it's not the area to be a buyer. And certainly an area where you could watch for failure for a move down, but we're not at that level just yet. If we get to that level today, 136.64 is another monthly top from the left. If we go to a higher time frame, we have to go to the monthly chart to get to see it. It's over here. All right. It's been held there. We could certainly hold there again this month. We could hold up here and simply trade all the way back down to the bottom of the range. So we're not maybe quite to the top of the range yet. Can we break out at the top of the range, or are we simply going to fail up there? So depending on your philosophy, maybe depending on what you're looking for, you could already be long waiting for a breakout. But when I see a clear range like this, even though from a fundamental perspective, we may break out, I'm always trading technically. So I would be watching down here for support. And I will be looking technically up here for a reversal back down. All right, so I'm not neither one of those areas quite yet. So, it's just a question of monitoring. Do we come to a level? So there's the 4-hour. So last week's high up here is at 136.58, the monthly level, where we did touch in late February and held 136.64 up there. That's definitely a level to watch for failure. Not a level to buy out though, is it? So you got to pick your battles. Don't buy into resistance, but potentially look for a failure up there if it can come around the corner. All right, I might just touch base on the dollar franc. I put out some analysis on that this morning in the 6-pair analysis I do Tuesday mornings now. New pair that I'm analyzing for you guys and girls, if you want to pick it up on our YouTube channel or on our Telegram. This day level, where we broke above, had a very impulsive move above there. We've touched it today and we're already reversing. We're going to see a long-term move up from that level. Big outside 4-hour candle. It's almost taken 3 candles out. All right. It would have been nice if you're watching that from earlier in the day from my analysis, because you may have been able to get on board a little bit earlier in the day. We've already had a trend line break. We've moved above 93 and retested it to become support. So you could watch 93. If we can pull back, you could watch 93 to be support now, or back down to 93 to 92, 91. Watch that area for further support now to move up. You could be drawing a fib across that range, looking for a little 79% pullback or a 62% pullback. Can you now buy a dip within that reversal intraday? We could well see now, I just tidy these little markings off. Back to the day chart, we could be seeing a continued move up. If I go to the monthly chart, I know there's lots of lines here, but we've hit monthly support down here. We could be moving all the way back up here. All right, so we failed up here last week at 94.08, but we could be getting support here for movement back up to here and then a move higher. See this massive couple of imbalances over here to the left. this could be all consolidation, turning around, getting ready to move higher over the last month and a half or so. You know, there's an imbalance there that needs to be filled for sure. So we could well be seeing a complete reversal there on the dollar franc to move a long-term higher. So 9,300, if it gets a retest, could offer you a very low risk entry for a long-term gain there. All right, let's have a look at the dollar yen. As I said, Friday, got the risk event of the BOJ doing the monetary policy statement. At the moment, from a monthly chart perspective, this is looks very similar to the dollar index. All right. Even slightly stronger because we've had a month up in February. Didn't have a month up on the dollar index. And big question coming in from Anthony. Let me just read it. So Anthony, you asked me, are dollar index, SP 500 and commodities like gold not available to demo account clients? Well, yes, they are, because this is a demo account that I'm using for the webinars. So if they're not in your menu over here, just right click, show all, left click, and that should pull them all up for you. All right, so if you do that, you should be able to find gold's in here somewhere. There's gold. Gold's in that orange section. S&P 500, if you scroll down, is in this green section. Dollar index is in this little blue section here. All right, so right click, show all. You should have full access to all those symbols. All right. And second question, do I draw my monthly, weekly, daily support and resistance levels as solid black lines, or are those dashed and dotted lines also support and resistance levels? These black lines are my support and resistance levels. These lines here, I don't know what dot lines you're talking about, but this is just a grid on the chart. I use these dots to draw my support and resistance from these highs, where these dots are, if these are the dots that you're talking about. All right, and you said, sorry, you wanted to ask those questions at the end, that's okay. All right, not sure whether I've covered your support and resistance answer, but I use these dots on my highs and lows on a time frame to govern support and resistance levels that I'm drawing in. And just want to squash this in. This line here that I've got drawn in comes from that top. That's a 2002 high, which we've moved above and is acting as a form of support at the moment at 135.16. So I want to go to the monthly chart and squash it in so you can see where I've got that line from. That's a critical line you need to be watching at the moment on the dollar yen. All right, so this is a monthly uptrend. Weekly trend. There's a little minor high bottom here, so I don't know if we're in a true weekly uptrend at the moment. There was a minor lower top there, which we've moved above, and a minor higher bottom form there. So I'm going to say that's in an uptrend. Day trend is clearly in an uptrend here, fractionally consolidating. There's that monthly level that I was just discussing, 135.16. Last week, we pulled back fractionally short of that level. Now, we may just maybe have a week down this week. Doesn't change the trend that I'm seeing at the moment, but we could dip down just for a week this week. So what we might see, that low just there is last week's low. We might see just a little bit movement down to maybe 135, but can 135.16, which is a monthly high that we've moved back above, be support for continued advance. We've moved above it, so we had this very impulsive move above here. Last week, we were able to get support ahead of it. With the Bank of Japan coming and doing its policy statement this week, this area could well get tested. But for this to maintain its trend, that needs to offer some form of support this week. If we clearly close below that level, then we could be starting to see a reversal. So the 4-hour chart, you can see we've tried to dip down close to this area on the last 4-hour candle and had a very quick withdrawal back up. So this is the area to watch for support. There's last week's low. Or I'll just pause for my dog. Last week's low is here. And there's that monthly level of support. That's an area I would definitely be watching. Before the Bank of Japan comes out, we could simply touch that level and trade back up. So that's a great level to watch for a movement back up. All right, and Anthony asked me about these dashed lines. Well, if you get my charts, this red one is indicating when I'm on the 4-hour chart, they show my 4-hour charts, 1-hour charts, 50-minute charts. The red dashed line shows me last week's low and last week's high. These olive lines show me last month's high and last month's low. So if you get my charts, then those print automatically on my charts. So if you get my chart layouts, you'll have them. So there, as you said, you asked me, are those dots of support or resistance? Yeah, potentially they're going to act as support or resistance. So last week's low here, where I've just highlighted, could act as support if we come down to that level today or this week. Here's last month's high, just there. We tried to trade above it last week and we failed, so it acted as resistance. So I do a webinar on that indicator. Catch the next one whenever it comes around on the monthly and the weekly highs and lows. So I have an indicator that highlights those levels. So at the moment, I will be watching last week's low, monthly support here through the course of the week to be support for a move up. This is rather range bound at the moment. And long term, when we get into Friday, after the Bank of Japan policy statement, this area really needs to be support if we're going to continue the upward move on the day chart. So that's the clear level to watch for support. Or a clear break of would maybe mean a change of trend. So we'll have to monitor that level through the week. 135.16. I would clearly be watching that level for an opportunity to trade. It's a very similar level, like we've just been seeing on the dollar franc, where we're reversing off a clear level of support that we've broken above. So, well, a clear level of resistance there that we broke above has become clear support for the market. So I'm just looking for the same thing to happen there on the dollar yen, if it can get down there. All right, let's have a look at gold quickly. Now, monthly chart here is negative actually. Move to a lower bottom. This is corrective rally. Put in maybe a lower top there, and it's at a 79% kind of retracement area. Any economist will tell you that they think gold's going to $3,000. So I don't know about that. It's got to break above 2,000 yet before we can get to 3,000. But when I'm just doing my technical analysis, that looks like a lower top at the moment up there. Now on the weekly, we actually have a higher bottom here to a higher top. So this has formed a weekly uptrend as that monthly trend has been correcting back up. Has that weekly trend finished up here, or is this just a pullback within that trend? So we're actually sitting on weekly support here and got a good bounce last week, 1807. And if we draw a fib from that low up to there, then there is a 62% level there. So there is a bit of an argument between the monthly chart and the weekly chart. Which way do you go? Well, it could go either way, to be perfectly honest. We could have found support here to trade back up that way, or we've simply put in a final top here, and this is just a short-term bounce, and we're actually moving long-term down this way. So this is where it can be difficult as a trader. I would potentially go, I always go, if I have an argument, I go with the higher time frame. So for me, monthly trumps the weekly. to the daily. Daily has moved to a higher top here, but we're not able to hold above that top. So if I was intraday trading gold, I would certainly look at that level as my line in the sand. At the moment, we're failing there, so I would be looking maybe to short from that level, 1847. And of course, if we start to move back above that level, I'm wrong, and I would have to get out of my trade. 1847.45 is the exact number. So that's a clear line on the day chart to watch. You know, if buyers can't hold above that level, we could simply come back down and retest this weekly level of support here and maybe break it. Now, so that last 4 hour candle, that was very negative because we were starting to head back up, outside reversal back below day chart support / resistance. So, you know, on a 50-minute chart, if you want to engage on gold today, does it come back up to 1847 and simply want to hold? Do you see a tight setup here to trade down from that level? All right. With the, let's just move back to the euro dollar. With the euro dollar selling off today from very close to the 10700 level, so US dollar strength is coming back in the market there. You know, that's been moving down the euro dollar. Dollar franc's been moving up because they're total inverse relationship between the two. US dollar is getting stronger, gold's getting weaker. So if we start to see pairs to the US dollar clearly moving down, that's probably going to mean that gold's moving down as well. So you could look for a retest and fairway there, 1847. That will be a definite level to watch. You know, if you're to the sell side, you want that level to hold. To the buy side, you need to get back above that level if you want to trade to the upside. All right. All right, everybody, any final questions? A little bit range bound at the moment, a little bit indecisive. We do have Fed Chair Powell testifying at 1 o'clock Queensland time, 2 o'clock New South Wales time. Somebody's asking me to look at Brent. I'll give you a couple of minutes. I've got to go. I usually finish at 8 and we're at 10 past. So we'll look at, if I can find it quickly, we'll look at Brent. All right, I'm just looking to see where it's positioned. All right, so a very key level of resistance there. $86.80. Clearly been held there. This is actually in the downtrend of the monthly chart, lower top, lower bottom. Very sideways. I mean, we could be getting ready to break out, or we're simply failing here. We actually have a slight uptrend here, higher bottom, higher top. So, you know, 86.80 is a clear level there. Is it going to break above or is it going to fail? So today we're obviously clearly coming up to that level. So it's, you know, that's the level to watch. If we clearly put in a rejection candle today, that should be telling you that maybe there's downside potential. If we get a clear close above, then upside potential. Our chart's in an uptrend here, so it's just, you know, it's just showing an uptrend as we've been moving up to test this resistance area. So, you know, just from a day chart perspective at the moment, we could hold here. You know, if we see a negative candle, we could well be moving back down the range. So at a very clear level of important resistance there. Is it going to hold or fail? I need some more information at the moment. I need to see what the day chart does today. All right, hopefully that helps you, but it's at a very significant level. What I would say, we're consolidating to rising here on the weekly. That would maybe tend to lead to the idea that we might break higher. from long periods of consolidation, we get large trends unfolding, but you know, that uptrend can only occur if we break above that clear level of monthly resistance here. So can it break above? All right, hopefully that helped you. All right, everybody, just to give you a heads up, what's coming up tomorrow on the webinar front is we're going to go through the range trade using Fibonacci. So I'll take you through that if you've got the time. And on Thursday, more live market analysis. So thanks very much for your company this evening. Hopefully you got some good levels and that you can work with. And just be aware of the Fed talking at 1 in the morning and 1 in the morning the next morning, and the Canadian interest rate decision. Other than that, we have the job figures on Friday. So it may be a range-bound week till we get to Friday, but it's good to have the levels to watch for failure, down from resistance or up from support. That dollar franc had a nice support failure there. You know, well, held at support, starting to reverse back up. May see another further retest and hold support for a long-term move up. So it's worth watching that pair. All right, everybody, thanks very much. Jim, thank you for your comments. Love, thank you. All right, everybody, thanks very much. Talk to you next time.